What's up, everyone? I'm Scott,
And I'm Jason.
and you are listening to Liquid Carnage. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm good. I had a really nice weekend this weekend. I got to play golf with Dave Watson. And in the 100-degree heat, it overwhelmed me by hole 15. I had to just say, I'm done. I'm exhausted. But then we went to the Cardinal game on Sunday, and it was bittersweet because obviously I root for the Cardinals for every game except when they played the Rams. They were playing the Rams, so I had to boo against them, and my boos were successful because the Rams won, or they were unsuccessful because they did not help the Cardinals win.
Oh, I guess we can go with that. I mean,
Wow, I'm really sorry. I don't know how else to say it, but it was a suck fest. It wasn't a great game by any stretch by any team. So
no, it's a game like that. I got offered tickets a few times for that game, and I'll be honest, for me, that drive is it's hard on Sundays to get up, go down there, watch it, and come back. It makes for a long day, and it's more fun when the team's winning, but the team's not sure who they are right now. So I'm better off watching it at the bar with friends, and I'm happy about that because I got to watch the Bills and Dolphins right before that, and that was a shootout. And
not really though.
I mean,
21-19 is not a shootout.
Oh, but it was back and forth all day long.
I mean,
it was great game, especially at the end with the poor time clock management of the Buffalo Bills, and for what will forever live in meme infamy, the offensive coordinator of the Bills having a temper tantrum, breaking everything up in the box. Totally worth it. If you haven't seen it, it's worth looking up. Ken Dorsey.
No.
Ken Dorsey, their offensive coordinator, because of the poor clock management at the end of that game, cost them the game. It's on video of him just like picking up his notebooks and everything and just throwing it down and like swiping things off the desk. It was a beautiful moment.
So is it a temper tantrum, or is that just an expression of emotion because it didn't go your way? Because temper tantrums to me are, I'm not getting my way, versus I'm friggin' pissed off and throwing shit.
It's probably more of that,
okay.
But this is also on the heels of the NFL sending a memo. They're calling it the Tom Brady rule. It's another rule named after him, or not to break tablets or any other issued items from the NFL, because Mr. Brady broke 2 of them last week in New Orleans and having a temper tantrum, as it were. So, the problems, the billionaire problems.
So, and one of the questions as we were going to the game, we had pretty good tickets. I mean, we were at the 38-yard line, 11 rows back. We were on the Rams side, the visiting side. So we got to see all the players. And the retail costs of those tickets were about $500. We did not pay $500 a ticket for those, but they were pretty good seats, right? Yeah. Well, on the way there, Noreen was saying, well, I don't know. What are your thoughts about, do you want to look at maybe trying to get season tickets to the Cardinals, season tickets? And I really came back to the same thing we've kind of talked about. No, it would be a major expense to come and watch a product that is not playing very good.
Yeah.
Every week. That would get draining after a while. And let's be honest, Cardinal fans, I mean, I know that our stadium is kind of fair weather because we do have a lot of snowbirds that come who root for the other teams, but there's a lot of loyal Cardinal fans in that stadium. I mean, it's definitely, there is a Red Sea and there's a lot of fans there. And I can't imagine the amount of money that gets paid in season tickets for a subpar product to be put onto the field.
It's funny you mentioned that because our EP, when he lived in Phoenix, had season tickets for a couple of years. And he said it was about a 10-hour day when it was all said and done, coming from where he lived in Tempe, cross the valley to the stadium. Then you tailgate, you watch the game, then you got to wait for everything to clear out. Then you drive back across the valley home, and then you got to unpack everything. So for a game that starts at 1 or 2 o'clock or 1:30, 2:30, depending on the time of year, you don't get done till 4:30 or 5:30, then having to wait. And that's still an hour drive back plus unloading. It's almost as bad as driving, back up to Kingman,
We stayed for the entire game, and we left the stadium at 4:30 to go to the car. We didn't get home till 5:45.
That's not bad, though.
Yeah, I mean, how about this? 45 minutes to get out of the parking lot and 30 minutes drive home. So it wasn't bad. But we didn't tailgate or anything. We left at 11 and we're gone till 5:30. So that's 6.5 hours, and we live relatively close. I mean,
Yeah,
EP lived further than we did.
you live in the middle. You live in the middle of the valley, so yeah, I get
Yeah,
that. It's
yeah. So
it's hard though, not as well. I was watching with the Raiders too last week when we were up there for that game. And up in Vegas, they do seat licensing, so you have to pay a certain amount for the rights to own that seat for 30 years. So you get first right refusal for everything at the stadium for that seat before it goes out to being sold. So
so you're basically leasing it,
you're basically
leasing the
leasing
seat.
the seat, but then you
Oh,
have to go
okay.
pay for the season tickets on top of that. And that's how a lot of stadiums do it now to help cover cost, and I can appreciate that. But man, if you have to be a diehard fan, and I consider myself a diehard fan. I'm part of the Red Sea. I think most people know that about me. It's one of the things that if you ask to describe me, I think Cardinal fan is probably one of the top 5 things that comes up. And I have a hard time, even if I lived down there, I'd have a hard time going, because the older I get, I prefer to hear the radio, hear the voices on the TV or the radio as the game's going on, because it tells you more. You're more involved that way.
I will say it was easier for us being down here to do this event.
Yeah.
Like you're right, because you'd have to leave at like 8 o'clock in the morning, drive down, get to the stadium, tailgate, get into the stadium, watch the game, leave the stadium. You don't leave Phoenix till 5:30, 6 o'clock. You don't get
Yeah.
home till 9. That's a 13-hour day. That's exhausting.
Yeah. It's a very long day.
Now, I will say this, for everyone who's concerned about finances and, oh my gosh, where's the money coming from, and inflation and all that stuff. There was a ton of people spending a ton of money at that stadium, so kind of makes you say, people can bitch and complain about inflation, but it didn't seem to be stopping anybody from spending some good hard cash.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's exactly it. I mean, the day-to-day items that we use, the prices have gone up a little bit on a lot of things, but I don't think the average consumer really worries about that when they go to games or so forth, because I feel like that's a luxury item. If you're going to a professional sporting event or a concert or anything, you're going to walk in there, you're going to spend 3 times the price on beer or whatever else, and that's just part of the day. And you just have to accept that's the fact. But people that want to go will find a way to spend that money.
Well, and I mean, I truly feel we've experienced this. You and I, we've been around people. I have no money. I have no money. I have no money. And then you see them walk in with, you know, new jewelry or new clothes or new, well, where did you get that? Well, I have money for that. I don't have money for what you wanted me to spend money on, but I have more than enough money to spend it on what I want to spend on.
Exactly. It's
So
the
it kind of
priorities of
defeats,
life.
yeah, it kind of defeats the purpose of the I'm broke argument. You know what I mean? Like when someone tells you, "Oh, I can't do that because I'm broke." No, it's not you're broke. You just don't value what I'm offering you enough to spend the money doing that. You would rather spend it somewhere else. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, but don't don't make me feel bad that you don't have the money. I'd rather you just say, you know what, that's just it's not something I want to spend my money on.
It's funny because this kind of leaks into personal finances and whatnot. And I had a conversation with the oldest child in our house about this on Friday evening while we were at soccer practice. We were just walking around the park waiting, and the Halloween store's here, and she's obsessed with Stranger Things right now. And we made a deal to get her Dustin's thinking cap from season 4, and she's worn it nonstop. But we got her one of those green cards for the spending. The kid's debit card. Have you seen those?
Oh, no, what is it?
It basically it's a card that links to her mom's account that she can add money to it, take money to it, and it's got the Visa logo and all that, so she can use it like a regular debit card, or her
Oh,
mom.
that's smart.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Oh, that's a good idea.
and so she has a very big understanding. She has $80 in there, and to an 11-year-old, that's a lot of money. To me,
Hell,
it was
to a 50-year-old, that's a lot of money right now,
like
man.
$80, yeah, pretty good.
If I had $80 in my wallet, that was just well, no, let's not talk.
But
But continue.
she also has a phone with an app store and games
Okay.
and other things that she wants, and that's that's what it came to. That's what I was trying to tell her. It's like, you need to figure out what you want to spend on, but you also need to figure out your savings goals. Like I told her, like when I was your age, I had an I'm broke level. and I've had that ever since. And I raise that level every year to where I make sure I have a certain amount of money in my account, and I don't go below that because I'm broke. But if I go below that, that way I create cushions for myself.
Okay.
And if I'm going to buy something big, I want to make sure I have the money to buy it twice before I buy it.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to explain that to an 11-year-old, and I don't think she quite picked up on it all the way, but I think she started to understand the value of money, and especially the fact that we're making her do chores to earn more money now, and because there's Stranger Things jackets she has to have and all that.
Yeah, this is a tough subject for me because I do feel that there is a balancing act, and how one person handles their finances doesn't necessarily mean that another person can handle their finances the same way
Oh yeah,
and that it's going to work. I have some friends that they spend every dime they get. They don't have that I'm broke fund or that I need to buy something twice. If I want it, I buy it and I don't care, you know?
yeah,
And for them, it works, right? Well, I don't know if here's the thing, when it works until it doesn't.
yeah.
It works until it doesn't. And, the, when that is the situation, everyone's finances is different, and it's hard because people in today's world have a lot of opinions about how what you should do to save money, spend money. Everyone has an opinion, and they always tell theirs that their opinion is the right opinion. And the reality is, if it doesn't work for me, I don't have to do it.
This is a case where there's a lot of different ways to skin that cat, and everybody believes their way is the best way because that's what they do on a day-to-day basis for their finances.
Right.
And
Right.
I'm very clear about, I put everything on a credit card and I pay it off every 2 weeks. I collect the points. I play that game. I
Yeah.
find a
So do
card
we.
that has the best point value, and I
Yeah.
do that's a couple $100 extra free money at the end of the year to go do something fun with.
Yeah. Free
Or
money. It's free
yeah,
money.
money. You're dumb not to do it, but getting yourself to feeling okay to do that, and trusting the system, because that's a certain level of discipline you have to have,
Yeah.
not to overspend and not to um, just say, well, I'll only pay half of it this week and I'll pay the other half in 2 weeks and let the interest accrue. I mean, there's a lot of discipline to that, and you have to get past that initial shock of, oh my god, I'm putting it on a credit card. I have the money. I should just swipe the money and go. You know,
Right. Yeah.
and you're trying to teach people that, especially kids these days. It's a very slippery slope, and it's interesting to watch because she's very smart in so many ways, but then there's other ways like, ooh, we're not quite there yet. We're trying to learn about this or that.
Well, have you met people too that they have the advice, the really good advice on finances, but they don't follow it themselves?
Oh yeah, I've also met people that have terrible advice on finances and they don't follow it themselves.
But I have people that have terrible advice and they follow it to
Yeah.
the letter, and you wonder how in the world do you get by? But they get by. I don't get it. I don't know. But do you find that in today's economy that you're feeling the pinch of inflation?
I'm annoyed by the pinch of inflation more than anything else. And for me it's not like it's things I can't live without. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a couple extra bucks a week, so I don't really think much about it. But it's more of a nuisance, more of an annoyance than anything else.
And so explain it, because I have a take on this whole inflation thing that it's getting to be a little bit ridiculous how much our society is so focused on inflation, inflation, inflation. Especially when I go to the game last night, and I didn't see anybody worrying so much about inflation when they were buying all this stuff at the football game. Didn't see one complaint, or no one saying, "Oh, I have no money, I have no money." So I wonder, it's like, why do we? What is
Well,
the impact of inflation?
I will give you a day-to-day example for me.
Okay.
I I have a huge weakness for salsa verde Doritos and jalapeno ranch ruffles.
Okay.
I mean, those are. I'm starting to figure out that salsa verde Doritos are only a spring and summer Dorito. They don't make them the rest of the year. And jalapeno ranch, they stopped making a little bit in the summer, I think, just because they had production line issues, trying to find people to help make the chips themselves. But when the year started, a bag of Doritos was $2.50.
Okay.
A bag of Ruffles was $3.
Okay.
Over the summer, that every holiday weekend, like Memorial Day, 4th of July, things like your chips, your Coke and Pepsi products go on sale, and whatnot. And notice this year they really didn't. The prices went up, and for obvious reasons. And I buy a 24 pack of Diet Coke every 2 weeks, and that lasts me the 2 weeks at home. And that was about $10. Over the last few months, I've watched those prices creep up. It went from $10 for the Coke to now I think I paid $12.82 yesterday.
Okay.
And a bag of chips and both bags of chips now are both up $4. And that's at Walmart. If you buy them just on their sticker price at Safeway, wherever else, they're $5.50 or $6 a bag.
Okay.
So that's up significantly over the last year.
And have those price increases? Have you thought about what the price would have to be for you not to purchase that item?
Yes.
Okay.
We are getting,
and do you have a rough idea for our listeners?
we are getting very close to the chips and whatever else. Like, you know what? It's fine. Do what you want. I'll get the generic kind because those are still very cheap.
Okay.
Because the Walmart brand, for whatever reason, still managed to stay the same price.
Okay, so that's very noticeable. What I've noticed on my groceries is the portion sizes are a lot less.
Yes, that too.
Like I've seen the same price, but definitely, especially when it comes to chips, cereal, stuff like that, where you say, "Wait a minute, I'm still paying $3.29, but this bag isn't even going to feed me, one portion." I mean, I can finish that off by myself right now.
Yeah, and I've noticed that with fruits and vegetables too. Like, sweet potatoes. I've eaten sweet potatoes for years as a part of my regular diet. And 10 years ago, they were 89 cents a pound. Except for the holiday seasons, they get down cheaper because I think everybody has sweet potatoes for the holidays. Now they're up to $1.39 a pound, and they're smaller. They don't grow them as big as they used to. Same with pineapples. Pineapples are still $2, but they're much smaller pineapples than they were last year.
Well, and that's weird because you can't really. It's not like you can, like you can portion control bags of chips and cereal. You can't really portion control a pineapple. I mean, it
Yeah,
is
but I think
what it is, but you raise the price because it's by the pound.
Yeah, but you can also cut them off to the bush or dig them up when they're smaller. So you have the same price, but it's a little bit smaller. So you can argue that the grow times are less because you're not letting it spend as much time on the vine.
So and the other thing I guess I become an old man about is we've had inflation now for a year. Why are we still talking about it? Like people are just so up in arms about inflation. Oh my gosh, look at this. Yeah, so
Because the
we've
media
had it for a year.
tells them they're supposed to.
I know, but we've had it for a year. Stop bitching about it and get on with your life, man.
Yeah, but if the media tells them that's what they're supposed to be passionate about, that's what they're passionate about.
I know, but good Lord, get over it. Like I invest in the stock market. We've had high interest rates going up for a year now. We've had inflation for a year. Why is the stock market now all of a sudden everyone's selling off their stocks and making all the stock prices go down for anyone who invests in the stock market? This is not new news, people. Like, you don't just go, "Oh, okay, well, I know they're talking about it every day on the news, but it's just a joke." And then all of a sudden, "Oh, it's real." Well, it's been real for a year. Stop complaining about it and move on with your life.
Yeah, but you're talking about people who understand the ebbs and flows versus people who hear buzzwords on the internet or their favorite news station and freak out because the person they supposedly trust the most in news tell them that this is a problem and they need to pay more attention to it.
Well, and I think the other thing I get, while I don't like paying higher prices for gasoline, which we all spend money on, right, or
Yeah.
groceries, I
Yeah.
certainly didn't complain last year when my value of my home went up 40%. Didn't complain about that. I didn't worry too much that, I just gained $100,000 or $50,000 or whatever the number is in equity. no one ever says, "Oh, thanks to inflation, my house that was worth 200,000 is now worth 350,000." No one ever complains about that. So it's like you didn't mind when the numbers were going up for that.
Yeah, it's a convenient. It's when it's convenient for you like that, everyone's very happy. But when it's an inconvenience on gas or food or whatever else, that's when they start to bitch. Because when you say, "Oh, my house went up in value," it makes them feel like they have something more than they really do. At the end of the day, your house is only worth what someone's willing to pay for it.
So why do you think that the news in general keeps talking about it? Like, why do you think they keep bringing it up? It's over,
I don't know.
done. I mean, it's done. It's over with. I mean, we know it's there. Why don't you tell us when it starts going down? Oh, by the way, it probably will never go down because these companies are not going to just start lowering prices.
Yeah, yeah. Prices
Now,
go up a lot faster than they come down, and sometimes they never come down.
right? We have a surplus of oil right now. We have a surplus of barreled oil in the United States. Has your gas price went down? Mine hasn't. It's still $4.19 a gallon.
Well,
So,
yeah, that's
so
true. It's the American way.
I
And
guess so. But
it,
I just getting old with like, okay, yeah, there's inflation. We get it. Move
yeah,
on. Move on. I mean, like, stop worrying and blaming other people for your problem. Just move on.
but I
And I
think that
know that
I
that
think
gets me
they,
beat up, but Jesus.
I think they feel like though to them it's they're reporting the current events in the news that, oh my God, this is the thing, we need to pay attention to this thing because this thing is news and people are going to want to know what to do and how long it's going to last and where it goes from here. And it's unfortunate. It's just it's the way our world works now, and it's a very sick society that we live in.
Well, and think about this. So, what's the opposite of inflation?
Deflation.
They wouldn't want deflation. I can promise you that.
Well, that would be a market crash, wouldn't it?
Well, deflation would mean that everything would drop in prices, but businesses would be basically not able to make profits because the costs would be so low, or the profits would be, or their sales would be so low compared to the cost that then they'd be pissed off about that. So you don't want inflation, you don't want deflation. What do you want?
Inflation.
What do you want?
Deflation.
They probably want placation. I don't know,
Yeah.
uh, but that's the thing is that so you're never going to be happy. Then if it's never going to be perfect, then just move on. If it's never going to be perfect, then why even bitch at all?
Oh, I get it. I agree, but that's the way this world is, though. I mean, that's the beauty of what the internet has done to our society. It has given people a platform to bitch. People that have no right to be experts, and given people something to run to when they're afraid and they're looking for an answer and they don't have the time or necessarily the ability to realize if they're looking at the right or the wrong answers.
Now, Noreen brought up a good point to me of my cynicism that I need to also take into consideration is that um, there are probably some families, vulnerable families, that the choice between paying for your electricity and paying for groceries is probably very real. That is
Yep.
probably a very real um,
Thing.
a real decision that they have to go through, or paying for your medications and paying for your utility bills. That might be a real thing. So I understand that, but on the other side of that, um, that's always going to be if you're that close to the line. That's whether there's inflation or not. That's always going to be an issue.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
No, it is.
let's say there's no inflation at all. If you can't, if you have trouble deciding whether I pay for rent or pay for my medication, or if I pay my rent, pay my utilities, inflation is going to maybe exasperate it. Maybe that's the problem, but that doesn't go away if the inflation isn't there.
Well,
I
that
mean, you're still going to have that issue.
that turns into an argument of capitalism versus socialism, really. Because you can cap that in theory with a socialistic mindset, if you want to apply that to economics, but you can't feasibly do that in today's world because with a free market, the idea is to make as much money as you can, and if you're not out there to try to make as much money as you can, then you have to just deal with the hands you're dealt because this comes down to how hard do you want to work for the kind of lifestyle you want to get.
So there leads back to a really good point. In a capitalistic society, we make what we can.
Yeah.
businesses during this inflation must be loving the higher prices, right?
Oh
They
yeah.
must be loving. So we're inflation feeds into capitalism.
It does. It's
So
part of the
so
model.
yeah, so if that's the case, then all of us as proud Americans and capitalists should love inflation because that's feeding into the capitalistic model. Oh,
Uh,
wait a minute, it doesn't work that way because inflation only helps people who actually participate in capitalism. If you're not a business owner or a company that benefits from inflation,
yeah. You're
you're
paying those
not getting
prices.
any you don't get any benefits. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. It's a wild world out there that we live in, and people don't want to take the time to do the research or figure out that they're being hypocritical with their stances on a lot of social views today and economic views. But that's another discussion for another day.
Yeah, I mean, inflation definitely benefits what side I mean, you get benefit from inflation depending on what side you're in, right? If I wanted to sell a used car right now,
It's a
I'm
great time.
loving inflation, right? I'm
Yeah.
loving inflation. If I want to travel overseas, I hate inflation because those tickets are
Yeah.
really expensive, right? Or if I want to buy gas, or if I want to, do anything, I guess the part of it that I have to keep in mind is that some people are going to benefit from inflation, some people are going to suffer from inflation.
Yeah.
The good thing is that we live in a free society that we all make choices, right? We can
Yeah.
all make choices. Most of us endure the inflation and say, you know what, it is what it is. We have to go. I know that if gas got to $10 a gallon, I probably wouldn't drive that much. I'd probably take a bus.
Oh yeah. I think.
Everyone has a different dollar amount, right? If, okay, I can handle inflation until it gets here, and then once it gets above that, I won't. And so then, when enough people say I've hit my breaking point, and I'm not going to pay anymore, then it'll automatically come back down because companies will say, well, they're not willing to pay $15 a gallon anymore, so I can't charge $15 a gallon.
No, that's it. But everyone's got to stand together with that.
So, do you feel that your daughter is going to learn the lessons that you've given her, or do you think she's going to do her own thing?
That depends on the day.
Oh,
And
yeah.
some days I know she hears me, and other days I wonder, like, does she just placating me? So we will see. Time will tell.
I do think though that everyone's own handling of their resources and finances, it is kind of like I can tell you all day long you should do this, this, and this, but you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah,
You know
you
what
got
I
to do
mean?
it.
You got to do. So if you're upset about inflation and you want to deal with it, who am I to tell you not to do that? You do whatever you do, man. Because
Right.
if that's one thing that we do want in this country is you have the ability, you live the life you want to live, man, and have the freedom to do so.
I agree. So as we wrap up today's show, if you have any kind of inflation breaking point you want to talk about, we want to hear about it. Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, all at Liquid Carnage. Janice and I have purchased our tickets for the holiday season up in the Denver metro area with the EP. So if you want to send us fun things to do with our EP over the Thanksgiving week, we want to hear about it. Hit him up on Twitter and Instagram at liquid_EP.
Do you real quick? Do you think that you would have the ability, have the courage to put a GoFundMe page on for you and Janice to go, like GoFundMe to go to Denver?
It's funny. If someone's dumb enough to pay the money for us for that, absolutely.
Okay, okay. Because you remember that couple that did that for that homeless guy, and they got like $400,000. It turned out to be a bad rouge, but they put the GoFundMe on, and the guy got 400 grand. So anything's possible, my friend.
That's what it is. Anything is possible. That being said, Jason, take us home.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you. That was Scott. I'm Jason. And as always, if you never know quite what to say, just have yourself some liquid carnage.